In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on February 19, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Toronto Raptors versus Chicago Bulls. The Toronto Raptors and Chicago Bulls meet Thursday at the United Center in a matchup that feels like two teams heading in opposite directions. The Toronto Raptors just stumbled against the Pistons, bounced back with a win over the Pacers, and already have the Bucks looming next on the schedule, yet they have still taken 7 of their last 11 games, which says a lot about how steady they have been lately. The Chicago Bulls, on the other hand, are coming off losses to the Nets and Celtics, and they see the Pistons next. But the bigger issue is that they have dropped 6 straight, and the vibe around them feels heavy right now. A skid like that wears on confidence, and you can see how it affects late-game possessions when every miss starts to feel twice as loud. The Raptors are expecting a full roster available for this one, which gives them continuity, rhythm, and a clearer rotation, while the Bulls are still monitoring Josh Giddey, Trey Jones, and Jalen Smith, and that kind of uncertainty keeps a coaching staff juggling lineups instead of refining them. They have been slowly stacking games with their core back on the floor, and that kind of stability tends to show up in road performances where communication really matters. Maybe the break gives Chicago a small mental reset, and sometimes that does help a team breathe a little, but they are still navigating injuries to important pieces and the lingering effects of recent trades, so the chemistry is a work in progress rather than a finished product. The record tells the story clearly enough, as the Bulls are 1-9 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 games, and that is the sort of stretch where you usually need a clear proof of life before trusting them with your money again. Toronto has been one of the more pleasant surprises this season, especially away from home, where 16 road wins show they can handle hostile environments and still execute their stuff. They already handled Chicago comfortably earlier this month, winning by 16, and that game on February 5th, a 123-107 result, was a pretty clean example of how their depth and health can tilt this matchup. With the Raptors trending up, the Bulls searching for answers, and the matchup history leaning Toronto, the more reasonable side is the Raptors covering again rather than trusting Chicago to suddenly flip a switch. As our first pick for this matchup, the Toronto Raptors to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Toronto Raptors are averaging 113.8 points on 47.3% shooting and allowing 112.3 points on 46.2% shooting, which already hints at a game where offense usually has room to breathe on both ends. Their own efficiency, paired with a defense that bends but does not completely collapse, often creates open floor stretches where scoring can come in bunches rather than long droughts. The Raptors are hitting 34.4% of their threes and 78.1% at the free throw line, while they pull down 43 rebounds per game, and that mix of outside shooting, steady foul shooting, and solid work on the glass typically supports a steady scoring flow across 4 quarters. Extra possessions from boards, plus the ability to cash in at the stripe, quietly add points that stack up by the final horn. On the other side, the Chicago Bulls are averaging 116.8 points on 47.1% shooting and allowing 120.6 points on 47.9% shooting, which is the profile of a team living in high-scoring environments almost by default. They score enough to stay in track meets, but they concede enough that the scoreboard rarely gets a rest. Chicago is shooting 36.7% from deep and 78.9% at the line, with 44.7 rebounds per game. So you are looking at another team that can stretch the floor, convert free throws, and generate second-chance looks, all of which lean toward more points rather than fewer. Honestly, when both sides bring capable offenses, middling perimeter defense, and strong rebounding into the same gym, the script more often reads as a high-tempo, whistle-filled game where the total gets pressured from start to finish. Given the scoring averages, shooting splits, and rebounding numbers on both sides, this matchup projects as one where the offenses find enough rhythm and opportunity for the combined score to land on the higher side rather than in a low-scoring grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Phoenix Suns versus San Antonio Spurs. The Phoenix Suns and San Antonio Spurs square off Thursday at the Moody Center, and it feels like one team is trying to steady itself while the other is catching a serious groove. The Phoenix Suns just took down the Mavs, then stumbled against the Thunder, and they already have the Magic waiting next, so the schedule has not exactly been gentle while they have still dropped 3 of their last 4 games. The San Antonio Spurs just picked up wins over the Warriors and Lakers, and they get the Kings after this one, which fits the picture of a group that has quietly stacked confidence with 11 wins in their last 14 outings. That kind of stretch turns close games into ones where your stars play more freely and the role players stop hesitating on open looks. The Suns might get a boost with Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, and Cole Anthony potentially back in the lineup, and that sort of reinforcements can help, but it also means the rotation has to be reshuffled a bit and touches are redistributed again. The Spurs have already ruled out David Jones-Garcia and Lindy Waters III, yet their core pieces are intact, and that stability lets them keep running what has been working instead of patching holes every night. These teams have already met twice in Phoenix this season, and the Suns came out on top both times, which is worth noting, but the tone of this matchup feels different now, with San Antonio in far better rhythm and playing with healthy key contributors who look comfortable in their roles. Here is the thing, the hotter team with its main guys rolling, playing at home in a building they know, usually has the cleaner path to covering, especially against a group still trying to stop a recent slide and reintegrate players on the fly. So even with those earlier head-to-head wins for Phoenix, the current form swings my confidence toward the Spurs to control the game and cover rather than expecting the Suns to suddenly flip their recent pattern. As our first pick for this matchup, the San Antonio Spurs to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Phoenix Suns are averaging 113.6 points on 46% shooting and allowing 111.9 points on 47% shooting, which signals that their games can be competitive on the scoreboard without always turning into pure track meets. Their offense is efficient enough, but the defense, even with that higher opponent field goal percentage, still manages to keep scores from exploding when they can slow things down and get into half-court sets. From deep, the Suns are hitting 36.4% from beyond the arc and 79.3% at the free throw line, with 43.1 rebounds per game, numbers that show a steady shooting profile rather than a wild, run-and-gun approach that turns every night into a fireworks show. Their rebounding presence helps close possessions and trims the number of extra shots their opponents get, which quietly nudges totals downward when the pace is not pushed. The San Antonio Spurs are averaging 118.1 points on 47.7% shooting and allowing 112.2 points on 45.6% shooting, so on paper there is plenty of scoring talent on the floor, but that opponent field goal percentage also hints at a defense that can force tougher looks than people sometimes assume. They score well, yet they also have nights where they channel that energy into contesting shots and finishing plays on the glass, which can tighten the overall flow of the game. The Spurs are shooting 34.7% from 3 and 78.4% from the line, while pulling down 46.6 rebounds per game, a rebounding edge that can slow things by limiting second chance points for the opponent and turning games into more of a possession-by-possession grind instead of a constant back-and-forth sprint. Honestly, when both teams rebound at a strong level and neither is bombing away at an extreme clip from deep, it sets up more for a solid, disciplined contest where every basket matters a bit more and long stretches of trading empty trips are very possible. Taking all of that together, the scoring averages, the shooting percentages, and the rebounding profiles point toward a matchup where the defenses and glass work can subtly drag the pace and scoring down, making a lower total outcome more likely than a free-flowing offensive show from start to finish. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Boston Celtics versus Golden State Warriors. The Boston Celtics and Golden State Warriors meet Thursday at the Chase Center, with one team trending up and the other trying to patch things together on the fly. The Boston Celtics just lost to the Knicks, then handled the Bulls, and they have the Lakers coming next, yet they have still managed to win 10 of their last 14 games, which shows how strong their overall form has been lately. The Golden State Warriors recently took a loss to the Spurs, bounced back with a win over the Grizzlies, and will face the Nuggets after this one, but they have still dropped 5 of their last 8, which hints at inconsistency that keeps popping up. That kind of stretch usually means every run against them feels a little more dangerous because the trust in their own responses is not quite there. The Celtics are still playing without injured Jason Tatum, and Kristaps Porzingis sits in that day-to-day category, while the Warriors have already ruled out Seth Curry, Jimmy Butler III, and Stephen Curry, so their backcourt and overall star power remain heavily thinned. When a roster is missing that many headliners, role players are forced into bigger jobs, and sometimes that works for a night, but it is hard to sustain across tough opponents. Surprisingly, these two teams have not met yet this season, so there is no fresh head-to-head script to lean on, which makes recent form and health even more important. On that front, the Celtics were rolling into the break and are inching closer to full strength with Tatum nearing a return, while the Warriors are still battling the same injury issues that have been holding them back. The Warriors went into the break in rough shape, including a 3-7 record against the spread in their last 10 games, and a week later the injury report looks basically the same, which says a lot about why their results have not shifted much. Honestly, it is tough to treat them like a reliable bet until there is a clear sign that key pieces are back and actually staying on the court. The Celtics, on the other hand, just keep stacking wins and sit at 30-23-1 against the spread this season, which shows they are not only winning games but also living up to expectations in the market more often than not. Facing a short-handed Warriors team that is still missing multiple important names, it feels far riskier to fade Boston than to assume Golden State suddenly solves everything in one night. The Warriors might get a few bodies back around the edges in this one, yet that kind of partial reinforcement usually tweaks the rotation more than it fixes the bigger problems, especially against a confident opponent that has been covering regularly. As our first pick for this matchup, the Boston Celtics to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Boston Celtics are averaging 115.3 points on 46.7% shooting while allowing 108.4 points on 44.4% shooting, which outlines a team that scores efficiently but also leans on a defense that can keep opponents in check. That gap between what they score and what they allow suggests many of their games land in a comfortable but not wild scoring range, where control matters more than chaos. From beyond the arc, the Celtics are hitting 36.3% and knocking down 79.1% of their free throws, with 45.4 rebounds per game, a profile that supports steady offense but also strong work on the glass to finish defensive possessions. Rebounding at that level often trims second-chance scoring for the other side, and that alone can shave a handful of points off a combined total over 4 quarters. The Golden State Warriors are averaging 115.5 points on 46.1% shooting and allowing 113.7 points on 47.2% shooting, so their games do carry offense, but their defense also holds opponents to slightly below 50% shooting, which keeps things from turning into a pure track meet every night. There is scoring on both sides, yet nothing in those numbers screams that every matchup should automatically explode on the scoreboard. From deep, the Warriors are hitting 36.2% of their threes and 80.9% from the free throw line while grabbing 42.5 rebounds per game. And that slightly lower rebounding mark compared to Boston hints that the Celtics can limit some of Golden State's extra looks if they control the glass. When one team owns a small edge on the boards and both sides shoot well but not outrageously from deep, the game can settle into a more measured rhythm where every possession is contested and empty trips stack up on both ends. Putting those profiles together, with both teams scoring in the mid-100 teens on average but also showing capable defense, solid rebounding, and no extreme shooting outliers, this matchup points more toward a competitive, controlled scoring environment rather than a wild, run-and-gun shootout. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Orlando Magic versus Sacramento Kings. Orlando walks into Sacramento wearing that steady playoff team label while the Kings feel like the league's problem child right now, and that gap in public mood is exactly where this number gets interesting. Most people see a team sitting at roughly 28-25 in the standings, leading its division, and they instinctively lean toward the favorite without much thought. A solid offense, a solid defense, a pace that sits in that normal middle lane. It all feels safe. It feels grown up. The thing is, safe on paper does not always translate to easy separation on the floor. Orlando is still leaning heavily on Paolo Banchero as the main engine, and he carries that load well. But the shine fades a bit when you remember that Franz Wagner, a key scorer and connector, is sidelined with that high ankle issue and not walking through the tunnel tonight. That is a giant chunk of shot creation and spacing removed from a group that already has its issues from deep, living more in the paint, at the line, and in the mid-range than in those quick three-point avalanches. Jalen Suggs brings energy and playmaking. Desmond Bane stretches the floor and punishes mistakes. And yes, they raise the ceiling, but the personality of this offense is still more grind than explosion. It is the sort of attack that can control games without turning them into blowouts on command. Sacramento, on the other hand, has been living in basketball purgatory, and their record shows it loud and clear at around 12-44. The net rating is buried in the negatives. The offense and defense both sit near the bottom of the charts, and a 14-game losing streak before the break says plenty about where they have been mentally and physically. Zach LaVine and Domantas Sabonis, once central pieces of the puzzle, are out for the season, which sounds like a death sentence, and in many ways it has been, but it also forces a strange kind of reset. Dylan Cardwell and DeAndre Hunter are out as well, so the front line is patched together with Maxime Reynaud, Precious Achiuwa, and young wings like Nick Clifford and Devin Carter fighting for reps and relevance. The backcourt and the scoring load tilt toward veterans like DeMar DeRozan and Russell Westbrook, which adds another layer of chaos and experience all at once. Westbrook still has that wild energy that can swing a quarter, for better or worse, and when he is on the floor pushing pace, the game can tilt into a track meet for a few minutes at a time. Keegan Murray sits in that tricky space where the ankle has been an issue, but he is trending toward being involved again, which gives Sacramento a bit of hope for more structure and shooting. Even the hint of his presence changes how the Kings can space the floor and how they can match up with big forwards like Banchero on the other side. What really makes this spot fun and a little uncomfortable is the human side of it. Sacramento has had time to sit with that ugly skid through the break, listen to the noise, hear their names thrown around as a punchline, and that kind of embarrassment sometimes wakes up pride in front of a home crowd. Coaches simplify things after a run like that, rotations tighten just enough, and guys who might have been going through the motions suddenly treat every possession like a small statement. The Kings are not suddenly turning into a contender, but they do not need to. They just need to hang around. On the other side, Orlando is not only trying to win this game, it is juggling the reality of a long West Coast trip that keeps rolling after Sacramento. That kind of schedule often nudges a team toward managing minutes, keeping legs fresh, and focusing on doing just enough rather than emptying the tank for style points in the first stop. When your overall profile is built on balance more than fireworks, that mindset leans even more toward steady margins instead of massive ones. The favorite looks stronger in every basic metric, but the gap between winning comfortably and winning by a bunch is a lot thinner than it appears when you scroll an app like FanDuel or DraftKings. Sacramento's defense is still bad, the offense is still unreliable, and the roster is a patchwork of youth and older names trying to squeeze more out of their careers. Yet that exact mix can create awkward nights for a visiting favorite that expects the underdog to roll over. The Kings play looser, they lean into home energy, they take shots they probably should not, and sometimes those actually fall enough to force a tight finish. The Magic have the better structure, the better record, and the better recent story, but the number between these teams leans heavily on that story more than on the messy reality of post-break motivation, injuries, and travel rhythm. As our first pick for this matchup, the Sacramento Kings to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Orlando does not run at a frantic pace, but the team does not crawl either, sitting in that normal range where a game can turn fast if a few possessions swing the same way. The offense prefers to attack the paint, draw contact, and live at the line rather than simply spraying threes, which quietly helps totals because free throws stop the clock while the scoreboard keeps moving. Banchero's constant pressure on the rim, Suggs cutting and driving, and Bane spotting up or attacking closeouts create a steady stream of chances that add up over 4 quarters, especially against a shaky defense. Sacramento's defense checks every box you do not want checked if you like low-scoring games. They give up good looks inside, they give up rhythm jumpers outside, and they struggle to finish possessions cleanly on the glass. Even without Wagner out there for Orlando, which hurts the Magic both on offense and on the wing defensively, there is still more than enough talent to exploit the cracks that Sacramento leaves open from the opening tip to the final horn. Every drive that gets past the first line turns into either a layup, a foul, or a kick-out three, and all three outcomes are friendly to a higher total across the night. On the flip side, the Kings' offense might look broken on paper, but broken can still be loud on the scoreboard, especially when structure gives way to improvisation. Without Levine and Sabonis, the sets are less polished, yet that also means more random attacks, more straight-line drives, and more quick threes early in the clock from role players who know they have the green light. DeRozan lives in the mid-range and at the foul line, which again feeds into that classic combination of clock stoppages and steady points. If Westbrook is pushing the tempo and if younger guys are sprinting the floor, the Kings can move from empty possessions to sudden bursts of scoring in a way that does not look pretty but still counts the same on the board. Game flow matters a lot here. If Orlando gets rolling early and stretches a lead, Sacramento will be forced to chase, which usually means quicker shots, fewer long half-court possessions, and a lot less patience on offense. Those frantic stretches might not be efficient in a textbook sense, but they open up transition chances both ways, and broken floor situations can blow totals past comfortable ranges before anyone settles down. Even in a tighter contest, the Magic still lean on physical drives and trips to the stripe, and the Kings, with their defensive issues, are prone to hacking rather than containing. Another subtle piece is that Wagner's absence for Orlando does not just chip away at scoring, it also softens the perimeter defense and the switching that helps protect the arc and the elbows. When that kind of versatile forward is missing, other players stretch further, rotations arrive a beat late, and shooters on the other team see a little more daylight than they probably should. Sacramento does not need to turn into an efficient machine. It only needs enough of those looks to drop to keep the rhythm of the game tilted toward offense, and against this version of the Magic, that is very much in play. All of this sits inside a modern league environment where totals around this range are not reserved for elite offenses only, but often come from exactly this kind of matchup. One solid attack against a very weak defense, with pace and style combining to create more possessions and cleaner shots than the raw season averages suggest. The numbers on both sides point to vulnerability rather than control when it comes to getting stops, and the way these rosters are currently shaped nudges the night toward a scoreboard that keeps moving rather than one that freezes. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Denver Nuggets versus Los Angeles Clippers. The Denver Nuggets and Los Angeles Clippers meet Thursday at the Intuit Dome in a matchup that feels like a test of which version of each team shows up. The Denver Nuggets are coming off a loss to the Cavs, then a win over the Grizzlies, with the Trail Blazers on deck, and while winning 12 of their last 20 games is solid, it also shows they have not been completely locked in lately. The Los Angeles Clippers just beat the Rockets, then turned around and lost to that same Rockets team, and they have the Lakers next. Yet winning 20 of their last 27 games tells you they have been in strong form overall, even with a few bumps mixed in. That kind of stretch usually builds confidence in late-game situations because players trust that their recent track record is more than a fluke. The Nuggets are still missing Aaron Gordon and Peyton Watson, and that absence matters for their versatility and defensive length, while the Clippers have ruled out Bradley Beal and listed Darius Garland as day-to-day, so both teams are juggling lineups a bit rather than feeling fully settled. Denver has not been at its sharpest, especially considering that narrow win over a depleted Grizzlies squad, which did not exactly scream dominance, but they still carry the comfort of knowing they already handled this Clippers group twice this season. Those earlier meetings both ended with the Nuggets winning by double digits, and even if the Clippers have the kind of talent that can absolutely grab a win behind a big Kawhi Leonard performance, the pattern of Denver repeatedly creating separation against this opponent is hard to ignore. When one team keeps proving it can control a matchup like this, it becomes easier to trust that same side again, even if the opponent is generally playing well against everyone else. So while a Clippers win would not be shocking on pure talent, the combination of Denver's previous double-digit success in the head-to-head and their ability to handle this particular matchup suggests they are still more likely to roll again and cover. As our first pick for this matchup, the Denver Nuggets to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full-game side pick. The Denver Nuggets are averaging 120.4 points on 49.5% shooting while allowing 116.4 points on 46.8% shooting, and that profile points toward a team that lives in high-scoring environments where offensive efficiency is front and center. Their nearly 50% shooting and solid scoring average mean they usually hold up their end of the scoreboard, even when their defense gives plenty back the other way. From beyond the arc, the Nuggets are hitting 39.5% and converting 81% at the free throw line, while grabbing 42.7 rebounds per game, which is the sort of combination that keeps points flowing. Strong three-point shooting stretches the floor, reliable free throws cash in fouls, and decent rebounding helps maintain possessions and second-chance opportunities, all of which tend to push totals upward. The Los Angeles Clippers are averaging 111.9 points on 47.8% shooting and allowing 112.3 points on 46.6% shooting, numbers that suggest their games are competitive and often tightly contested, but still high enough on both sides to support bigger combined scores. Their defense is solid but not suffocating, and when opponents are already as efficient as Denver, that kind of matchup can turn into a steady back and forth rather than a slog. The Clippers are shooting 36.5% from deep and 83.2% from the free throw line, with 40.6 rebounds per game, and that shooting efficiency, especially at the line, tends to keep their scoring stable even on nights when the rhythm is slightly off. When both teams can shoot from three at a good clip, hit free throws at a high rate, and pull down enough rebounds to prevent too many one-and-done trips, the natural result is often a game where possessions translate into points more often than not. Taking those offensive and defensive averages together, along with the shooting splits and rebounding numbers for both sides, this matchup leans toward a contest where the scoring talent on the floor and the efficiency on display give the combined total a strong chance to land on the higher side rather than in a low-scoring grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.